Maxey from outside. Sixers lead, courtesy of Tyrese Maxey.
Hit deep to left field. Going back is Locastro. It is gone!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beef Up Front podcast here on Pick Swap Media. Your host, Ryan Coyle, kicking off today's series with some NBA draft player profiles, about 10 to 15-minute episodes here. Going to be doing probably the 20 to 25 prospects over the next month or so as we get ready for the NBA draft, full NBA draft coverage season here on Pick Swap Media. Not the greatest NBA draft this year, but still a lot of players that me and Sean Bernard think are going to be very impactful role players. We don't have some generational talents, some superstars that we might have had in the past, but we have some guys that I think are going to be real solid NBA players and are going to be helping teams win playoff games, playoff series, and eventually some NBA championships. So today's episode, I'm starting it off with my number one guard in the entire 2024 draft class, and that's Reed Sheppard from Kentucky. Little background here on Reed Sheppard. Was a freshman this past at Kentucky, 687 pounds, 23 overall prospect, 2023 recruiting class for guys coming out of high school, and he was the 5th ranked prospect to go to Kentucky. So that kind of just says the expectations, at least coming into Kentucky, where he wasn't really, highly regarded as the number 23 player, but his dad went to Kentucky, his mom went to Kentucky, both legendary basketball players there. He was kind of a Kentucky or bust. He wasn't going anywhere else besides to the University of Kentucky. So but coming into Kentucky, you had Justin Edwards, you had DJ Wagner, you had Aaron Bradshaw, you had Rob Dillingham, and then you had Reed Sheppard as your top 5 recruits. Reed Sheppard came out of that, I think, as the best overall player from that class. Him and Dillingham are the only two that are projected to go in the lottery. Both of those guys, it looks like they're going there. Justin Edwards, maybe the back half of the first round, early second round, but Reed Sheppard, the 5th best prospect, I think he's going to be the highest draft pick. So that kind of goes to show you where expectations for him going into Kentucky, where he wasn't really, going to be counted on much. He probably was looked at as actually more of a year 2, year 3 guy to maybe go to the draft. Here he goes, and I think there's a legit shot that we see him go in the top 5 in this draft. I think if he goes to number 4 overall to the Spurs, I think that's a great fit for him to go with Wemby. You surround Wemby with shooting, a guy that's a smart overall kind of combo guard there, and Reed Sheppard. I think that's a great fit for him. So in his freshman year at Kentucky, played in 33 games, averaged 28.9 minutes per game, shot 53.6% from the field, which is awesome, extremely efficient. But this was super eye-popping. One of the, if not the best overall shooter in college basketball this year. 52.1% from 3 is what Reed Sheppard shot during his freshman year. And he did that on 4.5 attempts. 83.1% from the free throw line. And he wasn't just a shooter, a scorer. He was a good overall player. 4.1 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 2.5 steals per game as well. He's great at jumping passing lanes and making plays on the defensive end. Only 2 turnovers per game and averaged 12.5 points per game. Just so really good across the board year. And there's just nothing in his game where you really take a peek at it and you're like, oh, wow, that's a major flaw. That's a major weakness. He might just be looked at a little bit differently, to be honest, because he's a 6'3" white guard, and people might just be like, he doesn't have what it takes to play at the next level. This is just a really good basketball player. He's never going to wow you with athleticism. He's never going to be the most flashy player, but you look up at the end of the day and he's averaging in the NBA on a playoff team, I think, 14 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, shooting 40% from 3. Especially in this draft, you're going to sign up for that 10 times out of 10. So, like I said, rock solid player across the board. He can score. And I think not just only making plays on the offensive end of the floor, but his playmaking on the defensive end. Talking about it with Sean Bernard earlier, where, there are certain situations where it's like, okay, you'd like to see him, dig his feet into the ground and strap up and play some better man-to-man overall defense. But just his overall feel for the game, his ability to read eyes and jump passing lanes. Countless times I watched him this year where he's picking off passes and going the other way for an easy bucket. And I think when you look at that Kentucky team too, it's like he was the guy I think that really made him go. Rob Dillingham in spurts, he might have been the most talented player. Antonio Reeves as well was maybe the guy that was relied on the most. But when Reed Sheppard was playing well and at his best, that's when Kentucky was thriving, and he would just find ways to make plays and make key plays as well. That ability to play make on the defensive end, I think, is something that really is going to kind of set him apart and kind of elevate his overall ceiling here at the next level. But like I said, as a freshman, he shot 52% from three, and that's on 4.5 attempts per game. That's just unreal efficiency. Looking at his box scores and his games log, 8 games of 15 or more points, and he had 12 games of at least 3 3-pointers or more. So really showed the ability to make shots in spurts and score the ball in spurts. And that's on a Kentucky team where, it had a lot of mouths to feed. I mean, you get Antonio Reeves, their highest overall scorer. Rob Dillingham is probably going to be a top 10 pick. DJ Wagner. And also to par with that, DJ Wagner started over both Reed Sheppard and Rob Dillingham the entire year. So Reed Sheppard played, I think, only was 29.8 minutes per game. He should have been playing 35, 36 minutes per game because he was their best overall guard, I think, this year. 42-inch vertical at the combine. Once again, you look at Reed Sheppard and you're not expecting him to be an overall leaper, a guy that's jumping out of the gym, but 42-inch vertical at the combine, that's pretty unreal considering that was the highest or tied for the highest overall vertical in this year's 2024 NBA draft combine. Cerebral player will know his role just watching him, that overall feel for the game where he knows how to use screens, whether he has the ball, whether he's coming off a screen for a jump shot. He just has that overall feel. Like I said, his mom, I believe, is either the all-time assist or the all-time steals leader for Kentucky's women's team. And then his dad was the Final Four most outstanding player. Like, basketball is in this guy's blood, and you can see it where it was born and bred with him from an early age, and he's just really carried that up. You might be a little bit hesitant, scared to take him because you're not a player that screams overall potential. And maybe he played a little bit over his head this year at Kentucky, where I was saying, he was only the fifth best prospect in this Kentucky class, but still number 23 in the country. It's not like he was in the hundreds. He just went out there and made a name for himself and took advantage of every opportunity. It was kind of hard to take him off the floor. Did he play a little bit above his weight class? Maybe, but if he's able to go out there and consistently knock down shots and do everything else that I think he does well, he's going to stick, and he's going to stick in the league for a long time. I still am worried a little bit about his athleticism in terms of self-creation. I don't really think he's going to be ever a one-on-one guy. He's going to be more of just a old man type game where he just knows how to get to his spots. He knows how to make plays. But does he get thrown off a little bit by playing bigger, faster, more athletic guys every night at the NBA level? He's still, like I said, 42-inch vertical, still a very impressive athlete in that regard. But watching him at times where, guys are going to the basket, maybe he's trying to go up and go to the rim, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to get this off. I'm getting challenged, looking to make plays. I think he can get caught kind of hanging in the air a little bit too much, and he doesn't have that overall athleticism, I think, where it's like, all right, I'm stuck in the air. I can still make a play, whether it's for myself or for someone else. And just getting by guys, being able to turn the corner. He doesn't have that speed, that acceleration like a Rob Dillingham, his backcourt mate, does and shows the ability. So that's something that might hold him back a little bit. So that's kind of where my worry is for Reed Sheppard. But in a draft where I don't think there's a consensus number one, I don't think there's any real slam dunk overall prospects. When I look at Reed Sheppard, I don't see any glaring red flags in his game. Sure, I can say I don't think his self-creation is going to be the greatest or his overall athleticism is the greatest, but you can point to a 42-inch vertical and say you're lying. But then kind of when I watch the tape and watch him play, it's not like, oh, wow, he's going to be definitely able to hold his own, get by guys, be strong enough, be athletic enough to make plays for himself and for others in the NBA. I don't see that, but I also don't see a guy where I'm like, oh, no way, he doesn't have a chance at all, because he's that good of just an overall basketball player where he knows just how to play the game and how to make the most of his situation. So when I look at Reed Sheppard, no glaring red flags in his game, and I think that's something that certainly pops out in this draft class. In a draft of a lot of unknowns, Reed Sheppard, I feel the safest with him, which is why he's my number one overall guard in this class. And I was going back and forth on some comparisons for him. My comparison for him that I settled on, he is taller than this guy by about 2 or 3 inches. So he has that going for him as well. But I'm going with Mike Conley Jr., where Mike Conley Jr. has been Never been the best player on a team. It's kind of funny though, because at one point he was the highest paid player in NBA history, but he's never been the best player on his team. He's definitely more suited for, a third, a fourth option. But as we saw with the Grizzlies, they never actually got over the top, maybe because they needed another guy in there over Conley, in terms of, totem pole. But he always had them in the playoffs. He always had them fighting for spots. Now he has the Timberwolves has been a key part in helping the Timberwolves get to the Western Conference Finals. You look, he's probably, the fourth option on that team behind Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Gobert. You could even put like McDaniels ahead of Gobert if you wanted, but I think Mike Conley Jr., if you're the Spurs, or if you were, someone picking there in the top 5, top 6, top 7 picks, and you wind up getting a Mike Conley Jr. type career out of Reed Sheppard, I think you're signing up for that any day of the week. Like I said, a guy that all right, average 14 points per game, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, shoot 40% from 3. I'm signing up for that. Turn it over 1.5 to 2 times a game. Just be the floor general, be a rock solid guard for my franchise for the next 10 to 12 years. I'm signing up for that 9 times out of 10. So he's my number one guard in this class. I don't think he has the highest ceiling, but I think he's got the highest floor, and I think that shooting really helps him stick in the league, and especially in a day and age like today where shooting and scoring has never been at a higher volume, at a higher premium. I think that's a great spot, and I think the Spurs at number 4 would be a slam dunk spot for him. Go with all those kind of young athletic guards and wings that they have to pair with Wemby. You get a really good playmaker here in Reed Sheppard, and a guy that can shoot the ball, where I don't think he's going to shoot at 52%, but if he can shoot at 42%, he's going to stick in the league for a while. So that's my take on Reed Sheppard, my number 1 guard in the 2024 NBA draft class. Going to be, having a bunch of these out over the next few weeks as we get closer and closer to the end of June in the NBA draft. Make sure to stay tuned here at Pixel Up Media. Sean and I are going to be handing out videos left and right over these next few weeks. So as always, everyone, please like, subscribe, and we will talk soon.